members out. We will not do things that are not in the interests of our members, and we will respect our members' view. But that's what I would say to the members of the public. We aren't going on strike to upset them. We're negotiating as best we can to prevent any disruption to them.
And the Unite members in other roles at Heathrow are 100% behind what you're doing here?
Well, I think you know that that's not the case, because there is concern that other people's jobs may be at risk if, for example, BA were to collapse. And so people are concerned, and people are perhaps not entirely sympathetic. But when we hear stories about other workers supporting management, particularly in the question of not restoring travel allowances, what those colleagues need to know is sticking up for that kind of an argument prevents the settlement which will actually secure what they want, which is for all of BA to return to normality. So, quite frankly, I would say to them, bear with us while we try to do that, and just understand that whatever you feel about other members of cabin crew, it isn't helpful to achieve their own objective.
Have there been any talks between the two sides since Monday evening when you met with Kursk? If not, when do you expect them to start again? I mean, actually, what meeting?
We will try and start talks anytime. So my expectation is that BA will be sensible enough to react to that positively. So if that means that they respond today, we'll speak today. Have we spoke since? Yes.
Sorry, I don't quite follow you.
You asked if we had been speaking and would we continue to speak. We will continue to speak, because if they respond, we will. And the first part of your question was, have we spoken? And my answer was yes.
Okay, so you have been speaking over the last few days while you've been battling it out?
My answer was yes. Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you.
So Derek Simpson, the Joint General Secretary of the Unite Union, saying this is not a time for triumphalism. We shouldn't even be here, making the point he said shouldn't even have to bring that case. But Unite winning its appeal today at the High Court in London. British Airways, of course, in response, saying it is considering the judgment, and it is at the moment reserving its position as to whether to seek permission to appeal to the Supreme Court.
Well, BA giving their response and talking about their contingency plans that they have in place, but Derek Simpson saying there that the first tranche of strikes will not actually happen. They will pause, give BA an opportunity to go the extra mile, was his phrase, and would only go ahead with that second tranche, which would start on the 24th. And of course, 3 different sets of strike dates have been penciled in. Let's go back to Emma Simpson, who is there for us. And Emma, you heard there from Derek Simpson, you're asking some of the questions. So we have a couple of days anyway where I suppose it gives the opportunity for talks to continue to try to resolve what is at stake here.
Yes, I mean, Derek Simpson was quite clear on that. As you say, a pause for BA to go the extra mile. And clearly, you know, the hope is that could there be some sort of 11th hour settlement. But of course, these two sides have been really very entrenched for a long time. You heard from Derek Simpson there just saying that there was, in fact, Derek Simpson is right behind me just now. I wonder if you can step over and have a quick word with him. Derek, you're live on the BBC News channel. I wonder if I can just get an update on these dramatic events at the Court of Appeal here today. Are you slightly in shock? Can you take it in that you've won this court action here today?
No, I'm not in shock. I feel a sense of relief, not because of the cabin crew dispute. The case that BA had brought, which we considered to be unfounded, and even if there was any justice in it, it was so trivial. Something about the not adequate reporting of 11 spoilt papers out of a ballot of 11,500 people began to raise the spectre that any employer, in a situation where employees are driven to industrial action, can find some wee technicality, and we end up in court every time. And although this is an high-profile case, the same day we were in, there were another case ruled out. The RMT got ruled out, and And it begins to look as if industrial relations, which should be at the workplace between employer and employee and involving trade unions, has suddenly transferred itself into the High Court with barristers and wigs and gowns arguing fine print, when it's so clear, I mean in this case so very, very clear, that the democratic position of cabin crew overwhelmingly was for a dispute. And whilst that's the last resort, I will always take the view of try, and still do now, try to get a negotiated settlement to end the dispute. When we are in that position, it's just ludicrous we finish up in this auspicious place in front of illustrious judges. And I have to say, I give credit to the law lords, including the one that weren't very happy, the Master of the Rolls, but Lord Chief Justice and Lady Judge, I'm afraid I haven't got a name off, but they certainly gave it a very thorough going over. And what really is pleasing is that they gave a practical approach. And I've got to say this, they sounded like ordinary people, because anybody who asked about this case would have said the same as what those judges said, because it's so obvious. And, you know, they're in there arguing about costs now. And to me, that's a secondary matter, because we defended the democratic principles here. But I'll tell you who should pay the costs. Barristers and solicitors who talk employers into putting in cases as stupid as this one. They're the ones that should pay the cost. We should sue the barristers. That's who we should sue, because as my understanding is, these people poured over that ballot result to find some little nitpicking point, which has now proven to be even more irrelevant than it was when we thought about it, and persuaded BA to take this action. They're the ones that should pay the costs.
I asked you if you were in shock, because on Monday a lot of people thought that you didn't stand much of a chance in winning this, simply because at the end of the day you didn't dot the I's and cross the T's. But clearly the judges maybe have concluded that a more common sense view had to be taken with this specific section of a 1992 trade union law, which this all boiled down to.
Yeah, I think the point is this: we've held that where an employer breaches some employment law, it can result in tribunals, for example, people being dismissed on the company not going technical, that the court can rule that whilst it's unfair, it would have made no difference even if they'd have followed the rules. And it's that sort of principle I felt should be applied. And certainly two of the law lords have made exactly that point.
Derek, the $64,000 question now for thousands of passengers. Do you think there will be strikes on Monday?
It's very difficult, because we're poised almost within a slither, as what I'll use on television, almost within a slither of practically getting to an agreement with extraneous matters that are really quite irrelevant. And if they could be gotten out of the way, real consideration could be given, and we could hopefully and thankfully arrive at the negotiated settlement that would put paid to all this. But I can't say if that doesn't happen, that the thing breaks down and we are in the situation, and there is then the possibility of further industrial action. I can't rule that out. I'd love to be able to say I felt like we got an agreement and yes, no problem. And the minute I do that, I'd be very happy to come on your programme, because it'll be as much of a relief to me as it will not just to our cabin crew who want to get back to work and serve the customers and keep the business, I'm going to say afloat, but in the air, as it will be to the travelling public.
They'll be talking over the weekend, potentially.
I hope we are. I hope we take this opportunity, because we've deliberately decided not to go. We could have gone out that court and within moments our people would have had the aeroplanes on the floor. We've chosen not to do that. And I hope that in doing so, that's an opportunity for us to pick up again, yet again, to try and get to a negotiated settlement.
Well, we'll have to see. Derek Simpson from Unite, thank you very much indeed. Well, that's the latest here from the Court of Appeal.
Emma, thanks very much. Interesting what Derek Simpson was saying there about those strike dates. Let me just show you the website from BA. We said to you a few moments ago the statement that they've put out saying we're disappointed for our customers that this appeal has been upheld. It goes on to say Unite's strikes have failed twice and they will fail again. Very interesting listening to what Derek Simpson was talking about, the side issues which seem to have gone centre stage now, the withdrawal of travel perks and suspensions, because earlier in the week Willie Walsh was talking about that, whether there be any change of mind, and he said absolutely not. So that seems to be the central area still at dispute. But we will hear from British Airways, we hope, in the coming minutes, because we've heard at length there from the union, so we will chase reaction from British Airways here within the next few moments.